Yes, and I touched base with Stuart. We're all good. All right, testing. Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Boker tov.
Shabbos. It's Shabbos, good Shabbos.
Hi, Murray. Good to see you.
We're going to rise together and offer prayers for U.S. soccer. As we rise together, morning blessings. Page 103. 103.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan nesach v'bina להבחין בינו ובין לילה.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בצלמו.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני בת חורי.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשני ישראל.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם פוקח עברי.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מלביש ערומים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם מתיר אסורים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם זוקף יבובים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם רוקע הארץ על המים.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המכין מצעדי גבר.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה לי כל צורכי.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוזי צל בגבורה.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם עוטר ישראל בתפארה.
אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם הנותן יעב כוח. 122. ברוך שעבר היה עולם ברוך הוא. ברוך עושה בראשים, ברוך עושה ברוך עושה מקיים, ברוך מלכם הצלחתו וברוך המצב ושמו. ברוך המלך העולם, ברוך המלך בשמו.
יחיד חלמי
מלך משומר
וברדי את שמו הגדול ברוך אתה אדוני מלך מעולם
בתימהו. Amen. You may be seated.
So Shabbat Shalom, Chevra, those who are here with us in the sanctuary, those who are joining us on live stream. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So as we prepare for tefillah, for our davening this morning, I wanted to offer as a kavanah from this week's Torah portion, Vayetzei. There's a very famous part of this week's parsha in which Jacob is wandering in the wilderness, having escaped on the run from his brother Esav, from whom he has stolen the birthright. He lies down with a stone for a pillow, and he falls asleep, and he has a dream. This is the famous story of Jacob's ladder. And the Hasidic masters have some very strong ideas about the spirituality of Jacob's ladder. And what many of them teach us is that the truth is that we are all always on a ladder, going up and down in our spirituality, going up and down in our lives. We never stay at one place. But here's the chidush, here's the innovation that I feel like the Hasidic masters make that is so useful. And that is that we can't go up a rung without falling down. We necessarily have to experience some kind of stepping back or stepping down in order to grow. And so that we can sort of apply that to, of course, our spiritual lives. We can apply that to our lives in general. All of us humans who necessarily find that there are moments where we kind of need to fall down in order to awaken or to grow in a particular respect. And we can also apply it to our tefillah, our prayer itself. There will be moments in which we are distracted or we encounter thoughts which are not particularly prayerful. And then when we become aware that we've sort of lost track, we come back into awareness and we're able to ascend once again. That's just how the mind, that's how the soul works. So with that, we're going to continue with Psukei de Zimra. We're going to continue specifically with a psalm for Shabbat on page 134. Mizmor Shir Leyom HaShabbat Tov Lehodot איש בידה ונזור תאין קאי קנאי מרתי שמנונה צדיק הגי שר אדוני צורי לא Continue with Ashrei Yoshvei Beitecha, page 136. Ashrei Yoshvei שבח מעשיך, זכר הטובה יבין, ולכל רחמה מלכותך מלכות. צדיק אנחנו. אומר לכל קורו, שומר הכל אהבה וכל שבט. לנו אלוהיה, מעתה ועד עולם. Psalm 150 on page 141. Just take a moment to feel our aliveness. This psalm calls us to bring our allness, our everything, our kol, into our tefillah. So we take a moment just to breathe our neshima, to feel our soul, our neshama, to bring all that we are holding inside to bear into our prayer. Kol ha-neshama breath, neshima muka. As we continue with Nishmat Kol Chai, page 145.
Nishmat Kol Chai, Vayishlach Adonai Eloheinu פודה מציר, פנס מכם וחוצה וצוקה, אין למלך ידעתה שנים האחרונים. ידמים, אושרן כנגלה. Bottom 146. ומי ישבלה ומי יהרוג לה. הנורא עונש שמיים והארץ את שם קודשך האמור
לדוד ברכי נפשי לנפש
והוד רבי את שם קודשו 147 האל מתעצומות עוזיה שמך
גיבור לנצח והנורא
רותיה המלך היושב גזירה ניזק
שכנן מהרום וקדוש שמו
וכתוב על צדיקים באדוני יושבים נאוות תהילה
ישרים תתעלה
ודברי צדיקות תתברך ובקרב קדושים יגדל ומגלות רבבות עם הארץ ישראל לא דול לשבל לפעל אלמן
להודות להלל לשבח לרומם נדר ברך לקרס על כל דברי שירות ותשבחות
Please rise 148
עבדך
משיחך ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו מלך הגדול הקדוש בשמיים
ברכות
והודות ברוך בו שמו
גדול ותשבחות אל הודעות אדון הנפלא
הבוחר
בשירי זמרה
מלך עולמים אמן
יתגדל ויתקדש שמרה
אמן
תברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיית כל בית ישראל בגלה בזמן קריב
ואמרו אמן ישמר במורא לעולם ומעלמיה
ברוך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתעטר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קודשו
בריאוה
מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בלמה וימרו
Amen. 149.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Vaed.
אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Maybe seated 150.
ברוך אתה
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech haolam Yotzero Vo'eodek Ozei Shalom Uvoret Hakol hayo yeducha Yoshak Vo'en Kadosh Adonai V'Selah Motzi Chama Minkomam U'Shudam U'Masiveshin Melech Me'umam Levado Me'az Meshubam Ein kechachad Me'uzim
ככחד ונדון בעולם הזה
ויעץ לך
לחיי העולם
הבא
אספתך ולמות המשיח
והנה הושיענו
המתים
151 אל אדון הגול המעשים רורה ויולד שם הגדול ותורה מלא עולם דאבונה סביב הודו מתקהה על חד הקודש טובים מאוד שבת אלוהים יצא מדע מהשכל למזים מפיקים נוגם פרח אבנו ישמע נותנים לו זרע ורום דיברס וגדולה רבי יובנים היות Golden El Baro Shabbat 152 Shabbat Mekon Mechtov Yom Shvi Mashma Shalom Titvach Moshe Shemasedecha Tivat Mishtabach Shivamonu Top 153 Ha'orim Be'orim Giborim Lam osim le'emam Retzon konam Yirbieh
בקדושה
Torah
בשירה ובזמרה
Zimera Va'er Shaverev Ufarim ha'etzim הקדישים הממליכים האל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא הקדוש הוא למקבלים עליהם עול מלכות שמיים זה מזה רשות זה לזה יודרה רוח
בשפה
ברעה ובנעימה שהעולם כאחד עונים קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך על הארץ כבודו והאבנים והיות הקודש ברעש גדול,
מנסים
לעומת שרפים מדברים, אומרים ברוך כבוד אדוני, ואמור אל ברוך לימוד אל חבר כסך אשר במלחמות, בורת אלוהים
חדש הציון צעיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו, ברוך אתה אדוני
ושמוע יוצר Amen. 154, we grab our tzitzit together as one for Shema Yisrael, Ava, Rabbaftanu Eloheinu Chemla, Ki Techonenu Amdenu Rachamayim Rachem Rachem. Hey, we know the way to Nagid Yisachim Yishnu, Ki Yoshvatata.
וקרבתנו לשמך קדושה באמת, להודות לך ויחדך ויעבור, ברוך אתה אדוני,
ברוך שמו,
בוחר בעמו ישראל מאהבה.
Israel, Adonai, Eloheinu, Adonai, and ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם עליך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ושוכבך וקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, ותתם על מזוזות ביתך, ובישעריך. Page 156, ועם שמוע, תשמוע זה שנוכי מצוות, תרצכם ביתו יום וכולם יעזר, שם לכם בנבס השנבית. מה לא תתן סתם תנבבכם, על נפשם וכתבתם מזבתך שמעון מזמן זכרתם את כל
אדוני אלוהיכם אמת,
ויצאים לכל גם ראשון,
ודור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים וחיסון נכון ומלכותו ומלכותו לעד
היה
קיים.
157 אבותינו בדנו
אמת שאתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו מלכנו מלך אבותינו ואמותינו גואלנו גואל אבותינו ואמותינו יוצרנו צור ישועתנו עודנו ומצילנו מעולם שמך
אין אלוהים זולתך עזרת אבותינו ואמותינו אתה ומעולם אמן ומך ולשון יצעד אותנו עלינו וניתן לזמדנו תיבאת middle 158
תהילות לאל עליון ברוך וברך משה ומרים בני ישראל לכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ויאמרו כולם
מי כמוך באדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש תהילות עושי פלא
שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמך שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני
Please rise. לעולם ועד.
צור ישראל
גומה בעזרת ישראל גומה ופן יומך
יהודה
וישראל צור ישראל קומה גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמות ידות 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 ישראל
ברוך אתה אדוני
בשמות
גאל
חבר'ה, silent Amidah together. Pages 159 to 161. Place our feet together and face the ark. Rest is silent Amidah.
Adonai
Sevatai divna uviyagin uviyagin Ladecha Tehiladecha Tehiladecha Adonai Zevatai divna uviyagin uviyagin Tehiladecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומר חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גואל לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ופוקד מושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם מעכל חיים בחסד מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומאיים אמונתו שני עפר מחמוך בגבורות ומדומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה
ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה
בשמוע
לחיי המתים
אמן גדל הבא בעולם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מערו הגדול עלייה נביאה והר הזה Asiv Leoma Seravi Leoma Tam Baruch Yomeru Baruch Evon Adonai Malkeinu Dovia Vedino Aleno Kime Hakir Anagnola Mazadim Love Sio Vegarove Avenu Leolam Vayetzei Tigadal Vetigadal Vedo Yerushalayim Vera Ledor Ador Onetzach Netzach Veineinu Teren Vagodech Kadavar Hamor Beshirei Uzecha Al Yedei David Meshiach Sigei Lo Leolam Elohim Zion Lerov Ador Hallelujah.
Lidor Hadar Nagim
God Lecha
Netzach Netzach Kedushatcha Nagdish V'shivcha Eloheinu V'kiddush Ne'amelech Gadol V'kadash Ata Baruch Ata Adonai El HaKadosh
Amen.
Say Shalom Bimroma Uyase Shalom Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael Ve'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel Ve'imru Amen יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בהמד יברח ירתי במלחמך נוטה וחי יכול במכון ובחי תכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מברך נעלם עולל והול מיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם מן הזה ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה ברכו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה והימרו אמן תתקבל צלתן ובותנך ישראל קדם עווני בשמה והימרו אמן יהי שלמה רב מן שמיה וחיים עלינו בכל ישראל והימרו אמן עושה שלום ממרומיו,
הוא יעשה שלום.
עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ויאמרו
אמן.
אין כמוך אלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך, מלכות כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני עולם מועדן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום, אהבה רחמים, היטיבה ברצונך את ציון, תפנה חמה ירושלים, כי בך לבד פתחנו דרך לרם ונישא אדון עולמים. ויהי בנשוא הארון, ויאמר משה,
הוא אמר אדוני ויבוזו אויביך וינוסו משנאיך מפניך, כי בציון תצא תורה, כי בציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים, ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה ברוך שנתן תורה, תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
אחד אלוהינו גדול, אדוננו קדוש שמו.
אחד אלוהינו גדול. Turn towards the ark, my man. גדול. Take a slight bow with me.
גדול אדוני איתי, ונרוממה שמו יגדל לך, אדוני הגדולה, הגבורה, ותפארת, והנצח וההוד, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, אדוני הממלכה, תמיד נעשה לכו לראש, רוממו, אדוני אלוהינו, וישתחו לאדום רגליו קדושו, רוממו, אדוני אלוהינו,
Extra, extra.
כי קדוש אדוני
Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, חבר'ה, Shabbat shalom, חבר'ה.
יין אדוני,
איי, 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 Shabbat shalom and early Hanukkah Sameach. It's on the brain. All right, we are in Parshat Vayetzei, nachon?
Yes.
Okay, בסדר. So we are in Genesis chapter 28, page 166. Chapter 28, verse 10. Rabbi Jay noted before, this is the Jacob story, Yaakov, and challenging issues with Esav and his brother and all the dynamics going on. And of course,
the dreams he has in the midst of that process. Come on, Murray. First Aliyah, Murray, come on up. So first Aliyah, verse 10, page 166. Vayazor v'yim v'shosim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol havu godel le'Eloheinu kavod laTorah yamod. Mordechai Dov ben Ofil Malka L'Aliyah Rishona Baruch Shetan Tov Moisa B'Dushato V'atem Advikim Adonai Elohechem Chelem Hayom
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch L'Olam V'ed
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach L'Olam V'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher boch abonu mikol amin v'nosalonu es tovaso Baruch Atah Adonai no sein HaTorah.
Amen.
We hold this here, Murray. There we go.
Go ahead.
Amen. Vayetzei Yaakov miBe'eshava Vayelech Harana Vayikach b'makom Vayelen sham kiva hashemesh Vayikach me'avnei hamakom Vayasem ra'ashotav Vayishkach b'makom hahu Vayachalom Vahine sulam mutzav arzav Rosho magia hashamayma Vahine malachei Elohim Olim ve'yodim
Oh, Shikoyach, famous lines.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher nosalonu Torah shemesh B'chayei olam nota b'sochenu Baruch Atah Adonai no sein HaTorah.
Amen. Shikoyach, Murray, Chazan. Our second Aliyah in the beautiful dream here. The angels up and down. Verse 13, page 166. Tamod estebat Zev Raphael Miriam L'Aliyah Shinit.
Oh, over here. Okay.
Yeah, take your seats.
Which one's first?
Exactly, nice.
Over here?
There we go. Go ahead and close the Torah.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach
Baruch Adonai Baruch L'Olam V'ed
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Vayed Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Beautiful. Let's hear this. That's one. There you go.
Amen. V'hine Adonai nitzav alav v'yomar Ani Adonai Elohei Avraham Avicha Elohei Yitzhak ha'aretz Asher ata shochev alecha lecha et nena ozarecha v'chaya zaracha kafar haaretz ufaratzta yama v'kedma v'tzafona v'negba v'nivrechu v'cha kol mishpechot ha'adama uvzarecha v'hine anochi imach Ushmarticha bechol asher telech v'hashivoticha el ha'adama chazot ki lo ezavcha ad asher im asiti et asher divarti lach vayikatz Yaakov mishnato vayomer Achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh ve'anochi lo yadati vayira vayomar manora hamakom hazeh ein zeh ki im beit Elohim v'zeh shar shamayim.
Shikoyach. Beautiful. Awesome.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata betohenu Baruch atah Adonai noten HaTorah.
Amen. This is Shikoyach. That's the other side. B'kasha. To our third Aliyah, we're in verse 18, page 168. Yamdu tzvi ben Yoshua Kohen v'tirtza bar Avram v'Sara Aliyah shlishit. Verse 18.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch and Abraham le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayashkem Yaakov baboker. Vayikach et ha'even asher sam mera'ashotav. Vayasem ota matzeva. Vayitzok shemen al rosha. Vayikra et shem hamakom hahu bet el ve'ulam. Luz Shem Ha'ir La Rishona Vayidar Yaakov Neder Lemor Im Yeh Elohim Imadi Vishamrani Baderech Hazeh Asher Anochi Holech Venatan Li Lechem Le'echol Uvegen Lilbosh Vishavti Bishalom El Beit Avi, V'haya Adonai li Elohim, V'ha'even hazot asher samti matzeva yeh Beit Elohim, V'chol asher titen li aser.
So yes, correct. Yes.
Aser asrenu la.
Shekoyach. Perfect.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'chai olam nota b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shekach. Beautiful job. Shekach. Beautiful job. We're now into our fourth aliyah. We are in verse 1, page 169. Tamod Revayat. Ya'el bar Avram Sarah l'aliyah revi'it.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch and Abraham le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu likol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayetzei Yaakov Raleigh Vayelach artza b'nei kedem vayar v'hinei ve'er basadeh v'hinei sham shosha edrei tzon rotzim eleha kimin ha'be'er hahi yashku hadarim va'even gedolah al pi ha'be'er v'nesfu shama kol ha'adarim v'galalu et ha'even me'al pi ha'be'er v'yishku et hatzon v'yishivu et ha'even al pi ha'be'er limkomaha Vayomer lahem Yaakov achai me'ayin atem vayomru me'charan anachnu Vayomer lahem hayrim et Lavan ben Nachor vayamru yadanu Vayomer lahem hashalom lo vayamru shalom v'nei Rachel bito va'aim hatzon Vayomer hein od hayom gadol lo et he'asef hamikneh Hishku hatzon ulechu re'uhu vayomru lo nuchal ad asher ye'asvu kol hadarim v'galalu et ha'even me'al pi ha'be'er v'hishkinu hatzon.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shekach. Beautiful. Tov. As our fifth aliyah comes forward, I invite all to please rise while for a special prayer for Cholim. Yamod Shimon Meir ben Leah v'Yosef HaKohen Alech HaMishit. So pause amidst this prayer. I invite you to hold in your hearts and say the names quietly of those who are in need of healing. מי שברך אבותינו, אברהם יצחק ויעקב, אמותינו יוסף רחל ולאה, הוא יברך וירפא את האחרונים, ישמחו לכם בשם הצפייה. הקדוש ברוך הוא מרחמים עליהם ולהחזיקם רפותם וישלח להם רפואה שלמה מן השמיים רפואת הנפש רפואת הגוף בתוך שאר החולים חזק ידי העוסקים בצורכיהם שבת מזו קרובה קרובה לבש השתה בגלה בזמן קריב ונאמר אמן. May the Holy One have blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bring blessing and healing to all those we pray for. May the Holy One mercifully restore them to health and vigor, granting them spiritual and physical well-being, together with others who are ill. May God grant strength to those who tend to them. Though Shabbat is a time to refrain from crying out, we hope and pray that healing is at hand, and let us say together, Amen. So our fifth aliyah, verse 9, page 17.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach. Baruch Hambarach Le'olam. Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam. Asher Bochar Bono Mikol Ha'amim V'nasan Lanu Es Toraso. Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Danumi Barimam Verachel Ba Imatzon Asher Le'aviha Kiroi Vayehi Kasher Yaakov Verachel Balavanachi Imo V'yatzon Lavanachi Imo Vayigash Yaakov Vayagel et ha'even me'al pi yaber Vayashak tzon Lavanachi Imo Vayishlach Yaakov L'Rachel Vayishlach lo Vayevch Vayagid Yaakov L'Rachel Ki achi avihahu v'chivan rivkahu v'ataretz v'tagel aviha v'yehi chishma lavan et shema Yaakov berachato v'yaretz likrato v'yechabek lo v'yanashek lo v'yiviehu el beito v'yisaper le'avan eikol hadvarima elah v'yamer lo lavan achatzmi ufsari ata v'yeshev imo chodesh yamim v'yamer lavan le'Yaakov achi achi ata v'yavaretani chinam hagidali ma'maskortecha ule'lavan shtei vanot Shem hagedol aleya v'shem haketana Rachel v'nei Leah rakot v'Rachel hayta yifato arvifat
maresh. Koyach. It's key.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Nasan Lanu Torah Emes V'chayei Olam Nada B'Sochenu Baruch Atah Adonai Nosein HaTorah.
Amen. Shekoyach. Kol hakavod. We now go to the sixth aliyah. We are in verse 18, page 171. Yamoda Baruch ben Eliezer Basha l'aliyah shishit.
Baruch Adonai Barach.
Baruch Adonai Vayed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Le'olam Vayed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Shiva Shabbat Mikol Amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayehav Yaakov Rachel Vayomer Evodcha Sheva Shanim Berachel Bitcha Ketana Vayomer Lavan Tov Titi Otalach Mititi Otal Ish Acher Shva Imadi Vayavod Yaakov Berach ברחל שבע שנים והיו בינם כימים אחדים באהבתו אותה. ויאמר יעקב אל לבן הבה את אשתי כי מלאו ימי ויבוא אליה. ויאסוף לבן את כל אנשי המקום ויעש משתה ויהי בערב ויקח אליה איתו, ויביא אותה אליו, ויבוא אליה. וייתן לבן לה את זלפה שפחתו, ללאה ביתו שפחה. ויהי בבוקר, והנה היא לאה. ויאמר לבן, מה זאת עשית לי? הלא רחל עבדתי עמך, ולמה רימיתני? ויאמר לבן, לא יעשה כן במקומנו, לתת הצירה לפני הבחירה. מעלה שבועה זאת, וניתנה לך גם הזאת. בעבודה אשר תעבוד עמדי, עוד 7 שנים אחרות. ויעש יעקב כן, וימלא שבועה זאת, וייתן לו את רחל בתו לאישה. וייתן לבן לרחל בתו את בלהה שפחתו לה לשפחה. ויבוא גם אל רחל, ויאהב גם את רחל מלאה. ויעבוד עמו עוד 7 שנים אחרות. וירא אדוני כי שנואה עליה, ויפתח את רחמה, ורחל קראה. ותהר לאה ותלד בן, ותקרא שמו ראובן, כי אמרה ירא אדוני בעיני, כי אתה יבן אישי, ותהר עוד ותלד בן. ותאמר כי שמע אדוני כי שנואה אנוכי, וייתן לי גם את זה, ותקרא שמו
שמעון. כל הכבוד. לינדה, שכוח.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam atah v'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. You should call it Brian. So, we turn now to our 7th Aliyah. We are in verse 34, page 174. Yamod Adam ben Natan v'Shoshana l'Aliyah shvi'it.
Baruch et Adonai Havarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Amen. Vatahar od vatelet ben, vatomer atapam, yeleve ishi elai, ki yaladati lo shlosha vanim, alken kara shemo levi. Vatahar od vatelet ben, vatomer hapa'am oded Adonai, alken kara shemo Yehuda. V'tamod miledet, vatera Rachel, כי לא ילדה ליעקב, ותקנא רחל באחותה, ותאמר אל יעקב, הבה לי בנים, ואם אין מתה אנוכי. ויחר אף יעקב ברחל, ויאמר, התחת אלוהים אנוכי, אשר מנע ממך פרי בטן. ותאמר, הנה, עמדתי בלהבו אליה, ותלך על ותלד על ברכי, ויבנה גם אנוכי ממנה, ותיתן לו את בלהה שפחתה לאישה, ויבוא אליה יעקב, ותהר בלהה, ותלד ליעקב בן. ותאמר רחל דעני אלוהים, וגם שמע בקולי, ויתן לי בן, על כן קראה שמו דן. ותהר עוד, ותלד בלהה שפחת רחל, בן שני ליעקב. ותאמר רחל, נפתולי אלוהים, נפתלתי, עם אחותי גם יכולתי. ותקרא שמו נפתלי, ותאר אליה כי עמדה מלדת, ותיקח את זלפה שפחתה, ותיתן אותה ליעקב. לאישת ותלד זלפה שפחת לאה ליעקב בן. ותאמר לאה בגד, ותקרא את שמו גד. ותלך זלפה שפחת לאה בן שני ליעקב. ותאמר לאה באשרי כי אישרני בנות, ותקרא את שמו אשר.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai notena Torah.
Amen. We rise. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash Shmi Rabbah. Yom Adivrach Chirotei v'amnig malchutei v'ayehon Yom Ehon Ohayinu Beit Yisrael v'agala Ubizman Garivim Ero Amen Shmi Rabbah Mevorach Le'olam Ome'amayayim Yibra Vishtabach Vidbar Vidmam Vinaseh Vidadar Vitale Vitalal Shmer Yoneshah Brihu Leila Mikol Berkata V'shirata Ve'ata Ve'nemata Damiran V'yalma Ve'mero Amen. You may be seated. Maftira Aliyah, verse 9, page 175. Tamod Chayas Debat Nisan Daviv Yodit Lamaftira.
Hang on a second. Well, the first few
Verse
words.
30. So the first few words are, what page are we on? Go back.
Verse 9.
Verse 9, chapter 30, verse 9, page 175.
Vatere
Vayetzei
Leah.
Leah ki amda meledet.
Okay.
Shimon. This was after Shimon, no?
Naphtali, it's after.
Okay.
Oh, okay, that'll help. Let's sign up.
Gewalt here? Okay, iemand. No. Didn't you already read this too? Nachon bilcha is up higher, so. Gewalt, no. Again, I know. It's repeating over and over. That's the issue.
There's no
Ah, that's why it's up here.
okay, there it is. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Shada.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach.
Baruch Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torto. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. ותאר אליה כי עמדה מלדת ותיקח את זלפה שפחתה ותיתן אותה ליעקב לאישה ותלד זלפה שפחת לאה ליעקב בן ותאמר לאה בגד ותקרא את שמו גד ותלד זלפה שפחת לאה בן שני ליעקב ותאמר לאה באשרי כי אישרוני בנות ותקרא את שמו אשר.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chai olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We rise to lift and dress the Sefer Torah. Yamod Daniel ben Avram Basara Magbia. And dressing the Torah. Tamoda. Sarbat Baruch Vashvinsayenta Golelet. Vizot HaTorah Asher Sam Moshe Bnei Israel Al Pi Adonai sweet light to remind us of days long gone. Maybe see everyone page 195 for the Haftarah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah uv'Moshe avdo uv'Yisrael amo uv'nvi'ei ha'emet v'tzedek v'amim tiluim leim shuvati v'el al yikra'uhu yachad lo yiru mehem a'ech etencha Ephraim aga amen gen magencha Yisrael ech etencha ke'adma asimecha kitzvon yihim nepach alai libi yachad nichmeru nichumai lo eseh charon api lo ashuv l'shachet Ephraim ki el anochi v'lo ish b'kirbecha kadosh v'lo avo be'ir acharei Adonai yelechu ke'aryeh yish'ag ki hu yish'ag v'yecherdu vanim mayim Yecherduhu ketipur mimitzrayim, uchyonah me'eretz ahashur, v'hoshav tim al batehem ne'um Adonai. Sivavuni bechachash Ephraim, uvmirma beit Yisrael, v'Yehuda od rad im ehel ve'im kedoshim ne'eman. Ephraim ro'eh ruchai, v'rodai Dave kadim kol hayom, kezav vashod yaharbeh, uvrit im ashur yichrotu, v'shemen mitzrayim yuval, v'rihiv l'Adonai im Yehuda, v'livkod al Yaakov, kidrachav kema alalav yashiv lo, v'beten akav et achiv, uva'onoho Sarah et Elohim, v'yasar el malach v'yuchal bacha v'yitchanen lo, beit el yimtzaenu v'shaham yidaber imanu, v'Adonai Elohei hatzvaot Adonai zichro, v'yata v'elohecha tahashuv chesed u'mishpat shemor, v'kavei el Elohecha tamid kenan biyado, me'mozenei mirma la'ashok achev, vayomer Ephraim ach asharti matzati on li, kol yigi'ah lo yimitzu li avon asher chet, v'anochi Adonai Elohecha me'eretz Mitzrayim od, oshivacha be'ohalim himei moed, v'dibarti al hanaviim v'anochi chazon hir beiti, uviyad hanaviim adameh im gilad aven achshav hayu begilgal shivarim zibechu gaham mizbechotam kigalihim al talmei sahadai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzor kol alamim, tzadik b'chol hadorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer v'oseh, ha'mdaber u'mkayem, shekol devarav emet v'tzedek ne'eman. Atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'ne'emanim devarecha, v'davar echad midvarecha, achor lo yashuv rekam, ki el melech ne'eman v'rachaman atah, baruch atah Adonai, ha'el ha'ne'eman b'chol devarav.
Amen.
Rachem al Tzion, ki beit chayenu v'la'aluvat nefesh toshia, b'meira v'yameinu, baruch atah Adonai, mesameach Tzion b'vaneha.
Amen.
Samchenu Adonai Eloheinu be'ileu hanavi avdecha, uv'malchut beit David meshichecha, b'meira yavo v'yagel libenu, al kiso lo yeshev zar, v'lo yinchalu od achirim et kavodo, ki v'shem kodshecha nishbata lo, shelo yichben neiro le'olam va'ed, baruch atah Adonai, magen David.
Amen.
Ala Torah v'al avodah v'al anviim v'al yom HaShabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu liktusha v'limnucha lechavod ultifaret ala kol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach umvarchim otach yitbarach shimcha befi kol chai tamid le'olam va'ed baruch atah Adonai mekahadesh HaShabbat.
Invite all to please rise. Those who are honored to carry the Sefer Torah should come back to the Bima, page 183. Yehalelu.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו.
הודו הארץ ושמיים, הירק כן ליעמו.
תהילה
לכו חסידה לבני ישראל המגרובו.
הללויה,
הללויה.
מזמור לדוד,
הבו לאדוני בני אלים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז.
עבור
אדוני כבוד שמו, הבו לאדוני
מלך הבורינים, אדוני המים רבים.
כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר.
כל אדוני
נאי שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון.
וילקיתם כמו עגל, לבנון וסיריון כמו בן רמים. כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש. כל אדוני יכול אל איילון, ויחס עוף יערות ובחלום, כולו מרכבות. אדוני למבול ישב, ישב אדוני מלך לעולם. אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה, וטוב חייה מאושר דרכיה, דרכי נוח וכל נתיבותיה. שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשוב עדש ימינו, עדש ימינו
Shikoch, Deishkoch. All right, maybe seat everyone. That was the best carrying the Torah in the history of Beth Meyer, as far as I'm concerned. All right, Shikoch, Shikoch. He didn't drop it, thank God. All right, Shikoch. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Good to see everyone here on beautiful Shabbos. So we're back to our study, and I'm fired up because not only, of course, the Torah portion is just so rich and was so beautifully laid by our Balei Korah, by our Torah readers. But we're doing a Hanukkah prep this Shabbos. Going to get ready for Hanukkah. It's coming around. It's getting ready. In fact, you may see the beautiful, lovely Chanukiah, which we bought here. I think it's going to be in the social hall when you have a Kiddush lunch, a chance to see. So we're getting ready. And this is a famous Talmudic discussion. There's a whole section of the Talmud in Masechet Shabbat about Hanukkah and how to practice it. And this chance here for us to study how, it's a perfect example of how a halacha, or a way that the rabbis dictate you should practice Hanukkah, or any Jewish practice. You may say in the service, who cares really whether you put this here, whether you do it this way or that way. Hopefully we can unpack behind it that there's reasons behind it. Not just reasons, practical reasons even, but even spiritual reasons, or moral reasons, or educational reasons, Jewish reasons, why we would practice in one way. And one of the questions the rabbi is going to ask, and some of you might remember this from last time before Thanksgiving, we were getting ready for Hanukkah. According to the rabbis, how were we instructed, well, to put the Chanukiah? Most of us, if we're aware, you place it in the window. But according to, in Talmudic times, the way it was done was actually place it outside of your door, in front of your house, really, kind of. Courtyard, exactly. Kind of out facing where people would walk on the street as they're going by your house. Imagine houses or apartments on the street, and they're walking by. So you'd have it out. In fact, and I described in Israel today often, and in some of the Jewish neighborhoods, they actually have a box, like a clear glass box, where you place your Chanukiah in it, because obviously in the winter with the weather, it could blow out. So you kind of put it in a box, and it sits right on the street with the idea that people can see the miracle as it's coming by. Now, many of us today, for a variety of reasons, including American suburbs and whatever, we don't have the ability to put it right on the street. Although I think I've thought about it once in a while. We could put it like on your mailbox, kind of.
Yeah, the equivalent of your mailbox.
Like the mailbox. Like that'd be the equivalent. But since houses tend to be farther back, whatever, so we put it in our window. But it's supposed to, which window? The window facing the street where people are walking by. This is the whole idea. And we talked last time about, sadly, this could lead to anti-Semitism and that whole question. That's one question. All right. But the other question is, if you put outside your door onto your porch or whatever, like your courtyard area, the question is, which side of your door do you put it on? Okay? This is a very Jewish question, right? Very Talmudic, right? Well, which side go up? Which side? It matters. Which side? Okay. Now remember, it's not just about which side you are, but let's say as the person on the street's looking at you. Now, what is it in Jewish tradition? What other mitzvah is around the doorway? Survey says? Mezuzah. Okay. Now, mezuzah tradition is it's on the right as you're walking in, okay? It's on the right, two-thirds up the side, on an angle. We're not going to go off, that's a whole discussion with Hillel and Shammai. Just take my word for it. Okay, fine. So you have a mezuzah. So imagine you're facing your exit. For the person leaving your house, on the left side of your door, there's a mezuzah. So halakha is, do we put the Chanukiah on the other side of your door, meaning the opposite of the mezuzah, or on the same side as the mezuzah? Now, before we get into thoughts that you could just start to think, why does this matter? Well, of course it matters. This is Judaism. Okay, it's all going to matter, all right? So what would be the reasoning why you'd want it on the other side of the door, and what would be the reason why you'd want it to have on the same side of the door? Okay. Before I even go into it, does anybody actually have, there's like no wrong answer. Do you have any quick thoughts about why I think it should go on the same side as the mezuzah? What would be similar, maybe connected to having the same side of the mezuzah? Or, well, why it should be on the other side than the mezuzah? And who here doesn't care? Okay, you have to care. You have to care. Jeff, what do you think?
One is mirror image, and the other is back to front. So mirror image is more
Right, so wait, mirror image though of what? Mirror image of
On the meaning place it on the opposite
the
side.
side, so that it mirror, but what do you mean by mirror about it? So it's like,
One way. And you walk
oh, I
out.
see what you're saying. Oh, I see, right. Okay, so that by putting, I see what Jeff's point. Okay, Jeff's point is they put it on opposite sides so that each time, regardless of which direction you're walking in, which you're coming in or going out, you're going to have the experience of being surrounded by the two mitzvot. Yefeh. Okay. That's what I meant by my mirror. Now I get it. Okay, yefeh. That's a powerful idea. By the way, it's actually validated by one of the commentaries. Yefeh. I didn't think about it that way.
Amy?
Amy. Oh, okay, Amy, yeah. Still thinking about it.
I know this shouldn't be an issue, but I'm worried that if you put the Hanukkah,
Yeah.
these were oil lamps, on the same side as the mezuzah,
Gonna burn it?
the fire would
Good thought. That's a good, no, it's a good point. You know, Amy said, look, the mezuzah inside it has parchment, right? I mean, and now we have these contemporary mezuzahs, they're totally covered. Maybe in antiquity it's not the same, and actually could cause a fire hazard with the mezuzah. That's an interesting point. Interesting point. You fit. All right. Yeah, Mr. Brilliant. You know, that's a good question. So which way the door swings, wow. You know, it's so interesting. Maybe right. So first of all, I think John was saying as an issue of, let's say you don't want to damage it or cause a fire with the door. But then also, you'll block the seeing of the mitzvah, right? If your door goes in front of it. I never even thought of that. That is a cool idea. Leave it to the artist to tell us that. The practicality of the issue. Good point. Yeah, that's right. In antiquity, how did doors even work? They slide, or I don't know if they just. I'm actually not sure how doors, right, how they worked. It's like we have to think about that even. Okay, Susan, what do you think?
So I'm struck by the fact that the mezuzah is permanently.
Exact, nice.
The Hanukkah is
8 days.
Temporary.
We have our eight nights.
Good.
So I'm not sure where to go.
Okay, but
Good.
all right, but
It's an
Susan,
important
so
distinction.
I was trying to say, these are different shitot, different systematic ways to think of the rabbis. One is practicality, one is safety. Now Susan's giving another department.
What makes them different?
What makes different? What is about the mitzvah of mezuzah that's different than the mitzvah of Hanukkah? The one of the mitzvah of Hanukkah is the mitzvah is only required for 8 days. Mezuzah, technically, it's for the entirety, okay, of what happens. You're fit. Now I was trying to think, could that lead to the same or opposite? I mean, I probably could say it would be opposite sides because we're opposite in lengths of time, right? But it's an interesting idea. All right, Stu, what do you think? Yefeh. Okay. So see, now this is where the practical meets the point of the mitzvah, right? If you put the mezuzah on the top of the Chanukiah, in some ways, either I think you're saying like you're overwhelmed with two things, you won't focus on one or the other. Maybe you'll only see the Chanukiah and because it's so bright and not notice the mezuzah. And we don't want to cause a distraction. We want to give people the opportunity to see both of those things at the same time. Yefeh. It's like educational even at that level. Yefeh. All right, Adi, what do you say?
Yeah, like temporary versus
Permanent.
So like, but also literally when you light it, it's gonna go out after a little bit of time. It's not gonna last forever.
Right.
Maybe another days can happen. Probably.
Right.
Not forever again. I remember in Poland, in Krakow, even though there's not many Jews there, there's still mezuzahs like a bunch of the doors. They're just like
Yes.
So like it's like really a sign of like this is permanent, this is temporary. So I think different side. And also like mezuzah's not gonna like go out.
Right. Right. Yefeh. So it's true, like mezuzahs, in fact, I remember this when we were in New York, like it's, according to halacha with mezuzahs, if you're leaving your house, you're supposed to take them down. But if you know that someone is Jewish, is going to be coming into the house, as a gift, you're supposed to actually leave it up for them. Some people, of course, in large Jewish communities just, I think, assume either the Jews or just forget about it. And you'll see on some apartment buildings, they still paint over the Muslim. Like, oy vey, what'd you do? But that's what can happen. But it's, while it's fair to say it's not permanent there are ways that mezuzah could be removed. Generally speaking, it's a much longer standing thing. It happens all of the time. It's not limited to a particular moment. It could go even beyond you living in the house. But Hanukkah is only for 8 nights and only lasts for about a half hour to 45 minutes. Actually, the lights go on. Okay, you fit. And we're playing. This is interesting. It's just nice. This is a good tension. Any other thoughts about this before we go on? This is awesome. Okay. What we haven't gone to yet is, Mike, what do you think? Yeah.
One of the differences strikes me that in a way the mezuzahs to remind me.
Here we go.
Hanukkah to remind my neighbors.
Yeah, fair.
In fact, in my cul-de-sac,
yeah.
I'm the only Jew, and they always ask me when I'm putting up my Hanukkah.
Oh, it's so sweet.
They always notice it, and they ask me about it.
They ask about the luminaries or the Hanukkah? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Mike's saying it. I'm just kidding. I don't want a whole luminary conversation. I was just kidding around. It was just a joke. Okay. Mike's saying, no, actually, the Hanukkah is something that comes out special, and it's something that people notice and they actually pay attention to, and it's for the world, right? Mezuzah is not, and that's actually what's something interesting. Even though if you're inside baseball, like you know the Jewish world, even not, they'll know to look for a mezuzah. In fact, I've had people come to Raleigh and be like, I went to this neighborhood and I wanted to see, is this a Jewish? I look to see. That's like an inside information, but it is somewhat public. I think it's an interesting thing, right? You have to kind of know. But Hanukkah, you're gonna know. Basically, it's very bright. It happens actually at the dark time. It sticks out. It's actually meant to be, and we've talked about this, for the neighborhood and for the world. So they're opposites, which could lead to perhaps being on opposite sides. You fit? Anyway, we could have a different discussion about that. Any other thoughts about this idea? I just want to push one more just to kind of toss it out because you guys are doing a great job. The message of what's the teaching about mezuzah and what's the teaching about Hanukkah and how those might be similar or different? See the wheels? See the Talmudic wheels? Okay, Jenny's saying we'll look at the text. All right, because this is another app. All right, so look, Rabbi John, why don't you read the Talmudic text first, because I kind of explained it, but let's just read what it says and some of the commentary.
Rabbah said, it is a mitzvah to place the Chanukiah within the handbreadth adjacent, that's a measurement, right. Handbreadth adjacent to the entrance.
Just notice, by the way, he doesn't actually specify, which implies that Rabbah thought you could probably put it at either, okay? But the Talmudic anonymous rabbi is going to say, wait a second, I need more information. Go ahead.
The Talmud asks, and where? On which side does one place it? There is a difference of opinion.
Classic Jewish issue.
Rav Achaz, son of Rava, said on the right side of the entrance. Rav Shmuel from Difti said on the left. And the Chanukiah is
the halacha.
That the halacha is to place it on the left, so that the Chanukiah will be on the left and the mezuzah on the right. So
just to know, when the Talmud brings you this debate, it means it was an active debate, and in all likelihood, people were doing both practices. Okay, it's just interesting to know. Okay, but they say no, really. So this really comes this place of put them on opposite sides. Classic commentary here, and this is from the Gaonim, which is like Middle Ages time. They say,
one who enters the house will be surrounded by mitzvot.
All right, so it's a sweet answer, right? Like you have the mitzvah mezuzah on one side, you have the mitzvah of Chanukiah. It's just a sweet feeling. It's almost like you have a gate of mitzvahs surrounding you. Sweet, but doesn't really give you, I think, the depth of what we were already investigating. So here's a more contemporary commentary.
In the aftermath of the victory of the Maccabees, our sages understood that this new challenge had to be met. The Jew needed a reminder of God at the doorway, not only when he entered his house, but perhaps far more significantly, when he left it and entered a sometimes hostile, non-Jewish society. And so another mitzvah was established. The menorah was to be placed opposite the mezuzah, not simply because a Jew would then be surrounded by mitzvot. Rather, the menorah was actually on the right side as well, if one considered that every Jew would be facing it on his right when he exited the precincts of his private dwelling to confront the challenges of an alien world. It is when the reality of the outside was altered that the position of God's reminder symbol had to be switched from one side to the other.
Okay, so let's just understand what he's saying. I mean, again, you may agree or disagree or whatever, but he's saying originally it may have gone on either side or it didn't matter really. Like it wasn't such a big deal, which way it went. Maybe one says Mrs. went, but when we had our own land, we had our own sovereignty. When we walked out into the world and we felt comfortable in Jewish life and Jewish safety and security and comfort and in the public sphere, it didn't really matter whether Hanukkah went. But when we were in exile, when we were conquered, or when we live in a potentially, right, it's not always the case, but potentially hostile world out in the world, we need a Hanukkah over here on the other side to really symbolize going out in the world. Because mezuzah is in the main point of mezuzah. Why is it on the right side of the door? Sadly, again, historically, Judaism is much more right-handed. This is caught up in a lot of stereotypes about right and left-handedness. So don't get me on that. Just follow me for a second. When you walk in, mezuzah on the right means that it's more about, mezuzah is about getting blessings and Torah and the kind of teachings of
reminders of how you want to behave on
when
the
you
inside.
go in. Now, it matters about going out, but it's more about going in. But the Hanukkah is more about going out. And it's not just about showing people going out, which actually, though, that's a fair point, because that is a lot about Hanukkah. It's about getting us as a Jew, when we walk out of our door,
oriented.
Exactly. We need a little more chizuk, strength, to go out. Not just go in as a Jew into your house, but go out into the world as a Jew with a little extra courage. See, this is why we're good. Okay. Thoughts on that commentary? What do you think about this idea? And then sadly, look, I mean, when I saw this commentary, it sometimes in my time as being a rabbi, this was, what do you mean hostile, non-Jewish world out? I mean, come on. It's a hostile, sadly, not everyone, not everywhere, but right now, Gewalt. How much junk is out there about this kind of stuff, about Judaism, anti-Semitism? It's ridiculous. I don't know if I use the word hostile, it's an interesting word, but it's a tension, it's a problem. Do we need that extra strength to go out there into the world? I consider the argument being very compelling. Okay, thoughts on this idea? Any reactions to it? What do you think? Yes, what do you say, man? No, first of all, that does exist, by the way. No, it does. But just tell me your name again, ma'am. You are? I know you guys. Well, I know it's the from Longboat Key. I know you guys. All right. Rana says, so no, why don't we just put a Hanukkah out all the time, but you only light it during the 8 days? By the way, that's not, there are shuls that do that. I think the Chabad shul does that all the time. And other shuls have Hanukkahs that are actually out and just not lit as a symbol, right? So in some ways that would say, in some ways it would build the permanent. It's not a mitzvah to do it like mezuzah, but it's a power.
It's a reminder.
And it is a symbol that I just think, interestingly, whether we like it or not, if you ask 100 non-Jews, what is Judaism's #1 symbol? They'd probably say Jewish star, Hanukkah, because that's what, because of Hallmark, right? That has become the biggest symbol of Judaism on some level, right? Even though I think that for most within the Jewish community, we might think the Western Wall might be one of the biggest symbols outside to the world. So it's a sign of strength and a sign of pride. It's an interesting point, very interesting point. Maybe we should put it out all the time and just light it during Hanukkah. Never thought about that. Yeah, Adam, what do you think?
I definitely agree with the hostile world to Jews
Yeah.
idea, unfortunately. There was a big to-do the past week or so about a quarter of hiring managers openly admit that they don't want to hire Jews because they already have too much power.
No. Exactly.
You shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
If the world were not hostile, we wouldn't have this discussion.
Correct.
If you have to come out and make a claim about any other major religion, about Buddhism,
Right.
Islam, no. Judaism is as far as
Yeah, so I was really bringing up, sadly, this very current anti-Semitic claims, conspiracies. And the one that, just so everyone really knows, that President Biden, I mean, I'm proud to say, in a sense, I'm happy to hear that he responded, but it's so sad and terrible that his social media is what I saw it on. It says something like, look, everyone, the Holocaust happened. It's like, he has to put out a statement, the Holocaust happened, or something like that. It's like, what? Where are we living? They had to. So on the one hand, yes, good, the president does that. Thank you for his support and his administration. On the other hand, where are we living today? What does this say about what's going on? And I think it's fair to say, like, we're not saying everyone's hostile, but yes, there is this stream that seems to be loud and heard and somehow not sufficiently decried or denounced by enough people going on right now. It's very troubling, at least with this feeling of discomfort. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, Adam. Yeah.
We now sit down in our houses and have a connection with everybody in the world through our internet connections. And we're going in and out through this virtual world.
Yes.
Interacting in ways that should all make us pause for a moment about our behaviors and so on.
Yeah, I was bringing up the issue of virtual world, and I just want to say, by the way, I think it's interesting. Like, I've heard actually commentaries, by the way, especially during COVID, that said you should put your Hanukkah and light it in front of your Zoom on your computer, because that's where the world is walking. This interesting idea, by the way. That's interesting. Maybe you should do it 2 places. All right, Richard, what do you say? Richard, I'm sorry. Yeah.
What's going on today reminded the lesson of Hanukkah is kindness. There was a struggle which we prevailed in, and we lighted to remember the struggle and prevail. But we can never really relax and forget, it's just.
Richard's reminding us the original Hanukkah story is one about a conquering power who came in and essentially oppressed us, stopped us from practicing religion. But then we reclaim the ability to put that out. It's the timelessness of it. I mean, I just want to say, I've said it before, but it's worth repeating. In the Talmud, it says when someone converts to Judaism, you say to them, and the Jedi have done this with people who convert, is, do you even though it's kind of it's a serious question, but it's like a question you know the answer. You say, do you know that you're joining a people that's persecuted and oppressed? Like, essentially, do you know what you're doing? Do you really understand what you're doing? And when so many converts for so many years, that question was an irrelevant question. It was very much formulaic. But in the past 5 to 10 years, it's not formulaic. It's like, do you really realize you're walking and you're choosing to put yourself at risk on some level? You're choosing. That wasn't the case 20 years ago necessarily, but there are. And so it's powerful to say, and I find it humbling for me, is that we live in some degree of cycles, some positive, some negative, and just because some things really aren't over. And maybe we should be humble about the fact, I say to myself, that things are there. And this is your point. The holiday of Hanukkah, that message still prevails today, to this very day. Very powerful, Richard. Yes, Carissa. Yes.
Our dining room, because that's where we have Shabbat and we sit as a family. So it's a very gentle reminder. It's also a quiet reminder for others, maybe in the neighborhood who are in the know.
Yes.
Whereas a Hanukkah is more in your face.
Yes, it's a great point.
We have, if you live in Western Lake, you see me. We have an underground, menorah walk.
Oh, it's so
It's
sweet.
not even just our neighborhood.
It's so sweet.
About 700 houses, and there's maybe 4 Jews. So a couple years ago, I put it on next door, and I said, I would really love to be able to walk around and not just see Christmas, but if you have a menorah, will you please put it out? And it made me sad, but it worked. People just DM'd me and said, come by our house, we'll put it up at a certain time.
That's so sweet.
And I thought, wow, okay, so we're not going to just show it proudly.
Right.
And now there is probably, so far, we have 20 people in Western Lake, and we'll have a spreadsheet that we'll give to people, and we'll
Wow,
all
that's so
put
sweet.
them out for all the days.
Wow, that is so sweet, Carissa.
Still won't be put public.
Wow, that's awesome. That is awesome. So Chris is telling a story about Western Wake and placing the Chanukias out and connecting with people through social media, say, put it out and let's essentially walk in and be proud of it. And there's been ambivalence or lack of sharing in the past, or doing it for only short periods. But now there's a greater growth of people, more people willing to do it. I'm actually making this idea of a Hanukkah walk. I think it's a very cool idea. I actually love that idea. I think it's what we should think about for doing in general. I think it's a great idea. Yes, we'll go over here. Stuart, yeah, we're good to yeah.
The act of putting out the menorah also confronts the Jewish person. Is it an act of courage to do it?
Yeah.
I know in the South here, for years and years and years, Jews, Shasta, don't talk about. Even I noticed here when I drive up, the dark wooden sign
Yes.
coming here.
Yes.
Is that just because it's aesthetically pleasing, or is it because you don't want to,
Advertise.
our non-Jewish neighbors by sticking this thing out there out loud? So the personal act of a Jewish person putting out a menorah, number one, ask the question himself: am I secure enough in my Jewish self to declare this proudly in a hostile world? Or do I shasta? I don't want to cause anything with my neighbors. My wife just say quickly, she works for Transition, and they put up there's a group of ladies, obviously for 20 years, 30 years, the Garden Society. They put up a big Christmas tree, and my wife has always felt that putting up any symbol in a public space, whether it be Christmas trees, menorahs, anything for any religion is not appropriate in those spaces. So she started moving to take everything down. And after she explained her rationale for that, they sort of agreed, and they found that to confront these women who have been doing this for a long, long time, and it took an act of courage on her part because she could be dismissed now. Become a pariah in that community.
Yeah.
So going back to the putting out a menorah, it also makes a Jew say, am I proud of being who I am?
I'm willing to do this.
Say, this is who I am, and I want the world to know this. Or is it, really, it doesn't have to be that.
Yeah, fair. In fact, I just realized I didn't mention all of Chris's point. Chris was saying that the mezuzah is a more subtle, right, internal, maybe with family that's there or friends, and that menorah is outside. And so you dovetailed on that. It's actually there's a two-part evaluation that a Jewish person is making at this moment. It's not just for the outside, do I feel safe, although that's important. It's also about, do I feel comfortable doing it? Actually, Shrista touched on as well. And thinking her next door was like, there are some people that feel less and more.
And Hanukkah was a civil war. We always talk about this
Yes.
outside force. It was Jews against Jews. It was rural Jews against city Jews. It was Jews who said, nah, this is a great society. I want to participate. I'm going to put a foreskin back on my body so I can join the
Masses.
Right. It is true. Exactly. It's important.
very great society.
That's right. No, it's true. I mean, I don't want to get spice this things, but I think what's very important what the story is suggesting here is that Hanukkah is defined like the Greeks came in and it's actually Greek culture between the Jewish community and how different ways to relate to Greek culture within the Jewish community was probably the most core part of what a civil war was going on in the Jewish people. Again, we could talk about the influence of the outside world and even the relevance today of that within the Jewish community, but the different types of Jews and how much we embrace external culture and stuff like that. That's its own conversation. You're fit. All right, let me give D a chance here, and then Robin. Yeah, D.
People ask me about the question, like, really technically, we run to college, they always ask, why St. Louis, or, like, why is there Jews in Michigan? And I'm like, think about it, Jews, the people, we've always been immigrants. And immigrants go to places where they can work. The places where you can work are around cities. And cities tend to be in areas that are urban, and in those areas, they be the places where they're the best industries. So, in Michigan,
So Dee's giving some background about what it means to be, in general, a Jewish experience in diaspora where you're always out of your home. And by the way, this is one of the powerful things about the modern state of Israel, is that when you go into the public space, we're the norm, not the opposite. But in everyone in the diaspora, we're the opposite. And I just wanted to just add on what Dee was saying is, like, I know that, and Adi said it, and it's no problem, I say it too, like, we're a smaller population in the South. And I say, like, yeah, relatively, but imagine, like, the people who were here in Wake County, like, 100 years ago, Beth Meyer was started 140-something years ago. And we have Arthur Gordon here. A lot of his relatives may rest in peace. I mean, Arthur knows stories, I'm sure, much better than, like, we think this is a small Jewish community. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, imagine people, like, I know there are people, and I've mentioned someone, there are people, Jewish members of our shul, moving to Wendell and Zebulun. And I know there are stories about Ralph Dietz, where's Jerry? Gaval. Like, people, and the Robinson family, and who they like did sales. This was places where tobacco was like the main crop, and it was like they would have special opportunities for merchant opportunities because of tobacco, I think. And it was like, I mean, really no Jews, like really one family, like Oxford, the Fox family. It was 3 families in all of Oxford. Imagine them putting a Hanukkah up. It's like, you think it's hard for us in Falls and News? Now, by the way, I'm not saying it's not. I mean, I'm genuinely saying I appreciate it, but, we're a little bit chopped liver, compared to everybody else, right? All right, let me give Robin a chance. Go ahead, Robin, what do you say?
So I think it's really interesting. I ended up dovetailing on Adi by accident. Because I've had the privilege as a veteran to travel the world, I know what it's like to have a challenge finding your community.
Yeah.
And so for me, the Hanukkah, and I put it outside on the porch.
You do.
I'm obnoxious, so they can't actually see it.
You go, Robin.
And I do it on purpose because on Shabbat, I light candles. I connect with my community because I know all over the world,
Yes.
at some point in time, I am in community with people everywhere who are also lighting candles and welcoming in Shabbat. And that's personal on the other side of Mount Mezuzah.
Yes.
During this time, it's dark, it's December, it gets dark very, very early. It's important to me that people who are walking around in my neighborhood, and if you're out at Park at Westlake, or on the bottom side of 401, right in front of my house, I want the community to know that your community is here. So if you're out walking in the neighborhood, you're walking your dog, whatever it is that you're doing, you're going to see my Hanukkah outside to know that, I have community there.
I'm impressed.
So just like Shabbat, I connect with community in my home.
Yeah.
I want to let people who are not at home know that their community is here at my house.
Awesome. Rob is so awesome. I'm so proud of, so moved by your comment. And just think about how Robin's placed that. She's like, there's like the internal Holy of Holies is her Shabbat candles. The external, by which on her porch, according to the Talmud, she's following it, is the Chanukiah, and the mezuzah is in between. It's like you got these different gradations of public and private, and it's cool because she said, when she lights Shabbat candles, it is private in a sense, it's personal, but it's actually, there's a community there. The whole world, on some level, is doing Shabbos, hopefully. Okay, like, right. But that's not going to be seen. Then there's the world and people that are walking the street, this will be a chance for them to feel, especially if they're Jewish, oh, this is part of my community is represented here. I'm not invisible. So this is a really cool thing about like where these things take place. Look, by the way, just another thing. We could take Beth Meyer's sukkah, right? The mitzvah is the sukkah should be outside. The mitzvah is not that the sukkah should be on
Visible
Newton
to the
Road.
street.
Yeah, visible to the street. By the way, ours is. But you know what? One of the police, when we had our advice from the police, security said, I don't know if you should have your, but he meant it well. I mean, he meant it for our safety. But I thought myself once in a while, Gaval, we're sitting there in the sukkah and all these people and these children. I mean, maybe I don't know. But then it's like, no, I don't know if the sukkah has to be by the street, but we're going to put it by the street. We're not going to stop. But it's an interesting question about that issue. You're fit. All right, last comments here. We got Vesta and then Arthur, and we'll finish up. Yeah, Vesta.
So when I was growing up in Brest, in Belarus, I didn't see any Jewish symbols anywhere at all, ever. Not a mezuzah, not a Hanukkah, nothing. So then when I was 30 years old and my 23andMe tells me that I'm Jewish, I was very surprised.
Yeah.
Because there couldn't have been Jews there. But of course, yesterday I was reading about a pogrom that happened in Brest in 1937. And at the time, there were 40 bakeries in town. 39 of them were Jewish.
Wow. Uh-huh.
And before that, it was used as a nightclub called Progress. And the sign is still hanging in the photo. It's like
It's Progress.
but it's Progress, and he's hanging up the mezuzah.
But in the current building, there's a Hanukkah in the front of it still?
Well, I don't know if they're using that
Uh-huh.
building anymore, but it was a little apartment. But the
that was
Hanukkah was visible from the street.
So you're saying basically that, sadly, and some of you know Vesta's really shared beautifully, like her history, of personal story. She found out she was Jewish later in her life. And then the town she's from in Belarus called Brest had this. So the Hanukkah was the only thing remaining from that? Is that what you're saying?
No,
It just,
It just had it outside.
yeah.
I think it's, I don't know if it, I don't remember if it was in the window or like off to the side. The point is I could see it visibly
From the street.
And they didn't have the addresses of things published widely, so I wasn't really sure what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I know that there's supposed to be a Jewish community center on this street.
So essentially, it is these. Yeah. But it's like essentially the Hanukkah was the symbol of Jews are here.
The symbol that I saw. And
Yeah.
I'm certain they had a mezuzah, but I wouldn't have seen it because you had to.
Exactly. Correct. Exactly. It's so much smaller. All right. Arthur gets less comments since I spurred the whole thing about Jews of the South and years ago. All right.
And so what I want to honor is Dan Statisky, who's my uncle.
Love a show.
Usually sat in this row, which is why I choose to sit here now.
Yeah.
And he and I always had this great debate because he was of the earlier generation. And he says, you don't ever want to let anybody know that you're doing anything Jewish. His comment was, is because then they know you're not home and they can come and rob your house.
Wow. God forbid. Wow.
And of course, I, on the other hand, always wear a hat because whenever I'm in the presence of the Lord, I want to keep my head covered. And as an artist, I wear different shaped hats instead of just always a yarmulke.
Right.
And I wore it in my restaurant, and he and I were always debating that you're being too
Jewish.
And
Just come back. So this Dan Statisky, by the way, who's, for those who don't know, he and Alice were the enormous leaders of the Jewish community for generations, and have a tremendous legacy here at the shul through their contributions through tzedakah. But he said that he didn't. What was the first one? How does he know we're not home? I didn't catch the whole thing because
if you advertise that
you're Jewish,
a mitzvah or
right?
A gathering.
Doing a fundraiser at the hotel,
Right.
anybody who would know you were Jewish would know that you weren't going to be home that night.
I see. So basically, just don't advertise public Jewish events. I see. Wow, Gewalt. Because he's worried that people would then know the Jewish community is out of their house, and it's actually it's an attitude towards the world, or that the world's out to get us in a certain level.
It's a stance of vulnerability.
Vulnerability, exactly.
To feel that you have to be hyper vigilant
Yes.
about.
And I think maybe we'll just close on this, right? You know, the old shul, which I never saw, which was in downtown Raleigh off West Johnson Street. Many of you, some Arthur and I remember, and Paul Rose, of course. Apparently, it was a very nondescript building. It didn't have a large sign that this is a shul. It had a sign apparently, but it was relatively modest. And we could make. And this was a comment that. What about Stuart said? What about the sign that the R one here? I don't know. I don't know why it's so relatively modest. I don't know. I'm not sure it was because of hiding. I'm not saying it wasn't. That would be a good question for someone like Howard Statisky was very involved in the show. I'd be curious about that question. But I know that there was one Shabbos a year that in the 50s, apparently, that the KKK would go down or it was whatever, something like that. Because we've heard stories about down Hillsborough Street. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Arthur and Paul, And this idea, and there was police presence, like the one Shabbat this is history. Now, and this idea like that as comfortable as we feel, as comfortable we want to be, and the truth is most Americans, even now, are very positive and pro-Semitic, we might say. There is this sliver, and it hasn't ever gone away. And instead of, me or other younger Jews saying something like, oh, they're just being vulnerable and insecure unnecessarily, it's like, hold on, just like be a little humble. Let's just see, and let's let the length of time decide whether that's the case. I think it's an important part of our history to remember. All right. Great conversation. I wish it wasn't such a strong conversation about anti-Semitism in Hanukkah. Hopefully it's going to be more about the pride of Hanukkah. But hopefully everyone knows now where to put the Hanukkah and where to put their mezuzah. Okay, Yeshua Koach. We can put our text to the side. We now return to page 184. We rise together, Chatzi Kaddish.
יתקדש ויתקדש מרבה ומה תברח ירטיב ימיך מלכותך
בהיענו ביומך חייך בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן גרים עמי יש
וידבר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה
בריאות.
לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה
ושמחתה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמא.
Amen.
Cover our feet together towards Jerusalem, 185 to 187 together. The rest is silent Amidah.
Adonai sifatai
Tivda'u v'yagidinatecha Baruch atah Adonai Heinu Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומר חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה.
מלך
עוזר
חוקר משיח
ומגן, ברוך אתה, אדוני, מגן אברהם, ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב והושיע. משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, ועגל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומאיים אמונתו, שני עפר, יהמוך בגבורות, ומדומן לה, מלך מביט ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה.
בני המן אתה לחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני,
בשמו,
אמן.
אמן.
נריצך ונקדישך, קצוץ שרפי קודש,
המקדישים שמך בקודש,
כתוב על עלמייך,
קרא זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 ראי צבאות, ולא על הארץ כבודו.
כבודו מלא עולם, משרתיו שואלים זה
לזה.
האם מקום כבודו לעומתם, ברוך יאמרו,
ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו.
ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים, ויחונם המייחדים שמו, ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים באהבה.
שמע אומרים, שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמינו ברחמיו שנין לעיני כל חי, להיות לכם לאלוהים.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
ותפארת קודשך כתוב לאמור.
ימלוך עלי עולם אלייך ציון לדור ודור, הללויה.
לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצח קדושתך נקדיש, בשפרך אלוהינו פילוש לעולם ועד, כי על מלך גדול וקדוש אתה, ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
אמן.
עם שלום טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו וכל
ישראל.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, והלמד יברח ירדי ממך מלכותי, וחיי חורם ממכון, ובחיי תכל בית ישראל, בגלה ויצמח קריבים ואנו אמן. יהי שמי רבה ממורה, לעולם ומעלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם וינשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו. לילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה, תשפחת ונחמתה, דאמירן במה ויאמרו אמן. תתקבץ לא תנפות לכל ישראל, קדם אבוהון דיבישמי ויאמרו אמן. יהי שלום הרב מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל ישראל ויאמרו אמן. עשה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל ישראל, יעקב ישרי תבל ויאמרו אמן. אין כאלוהינו, אין כאדוננו, אין כמלכנו, אין כמושיענו, מי כאלוהינו, מי כאדוננו, מי כמלכנו, מי כמושיענו. נודה לאלוהינו, נודה לאדוננו, נודה למלכנו, נודה למושיענו. ברוך אלוהינו, ברוך אדוננו, ברוך מלכנו, ברוך מושיענו. אתה הוא אלוהינו, אתה הוא אדוננו, אתה הוא מלכנו, אתה הוא מושיענו. אתה הוא שקטינו, אבותינו, לפניך לקטור את הסמים עלינו, לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו ויעזור ולא משפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו גהם וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים למלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נפש
כן, נקווה לך ונתקן עולם וחופש. שמור חג.
ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו, שמו, ושמו.
Turn to page 207. Invite those in mourning observing a yard site, the Shabbat. Shabbat Vayetzei, נכון. Rise for Kaddish Yatom. 207. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. בעלמא דירה קירותי וימליך מלכותי. בחיי חון ויום איכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בעגלה בזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו. לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו amen. BC everyone, Shabbat Shalom Varach. Invite Sandy Bouchard from our Board of Trustees, Chesed Maven, offer announcements.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I have a few announcements. On December 17th, please join us on Shabbat morning as we welcome our special guests, Sheila Alford and Kimberly Acock from Wake County Health and Human Services, Foster Care, Permanency Planning, and Adoption Services. We have a big tub out in the lobby right now, and we are collecting travel items, personal care items, electronics, art supplies, baby and toddler goods, and more for children in foster care. If you go on to ShulCloud, and it will be in further social media, there'll be a full list of items that are needed. I encourage you to bring your children to the service so they can be aware that their classmates might be in a situation. I can tell you right now, there are children sleeping in the building on Swinburne in Wake County Human Services because there are not enough foster families. During COVID, a lot of the families never came back into the system. So it should be a very enlightening speech, talk, and hopefully we can help out with donations, and maybe some families would think about fostering. Okay. Events that are coming up. Institute for Jewish Spirituality, IJS Meditation, which is Thursday, December 8th from 12:30 to 1 with Rabbi Jenny. Then we have our delightful Hanukkah celebrations. On December 11th, 8 simple activities to inspire your family candlelighting. December 11th, restorative Hanukkah yoga. December 13th, senior luncheon, why we must put the Hanukkah in the window. December 18th, our annual Lights and Latkes Hanukkah celebration. And December 21st, Minyan and community candlelighting.
Awesome. Thank you,
Thanks,
Sandy.
Sandy.
Shakar. Oh, okay.
Yes, Shauna's got her hand up.
Triangle Jewish Chorale concert is at the Durham JCC tomorrow at 3 o'clock. It is free and open to the public. We're thrilled to be able to do things in public again, and we encourage you to come.
Wonderful. So you hear a lot of noise in the lobby. We want to invite all of our Shorashim families. Al, if you'll kindly open the door and allow our families with young children to make their way into the sanctuary. For those who are not in the lobby, you should know that beginning this month, we have one Shabbat a month that's called Shabbat Shorashim. And there's a service that's happening in the Satisky building in the Beit Am. And then we're inviting our families with young children to come join us for motzi and kiddush, and of course to stay after for lunch.
These are our Hanukkah lights. Come on up, guys. Come on up to the bima. Stuart, come
When you all join us for Shabbat lunch, know that there are special foods for toddlers. So we invite the grown-ups to make sure that we leave the toddler food for the toddlers. And our families with young children to be sure to know that there is food special for you. So at this time, we rise for Kiddush and Motzi.
Ken, invite all the kids to come around and get some special challah. These are Hanukkah lights. I love this. You're fan. Adonai, Yom HaShabbat V'Yagatzeu Savri. Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
Okay, Kathy, want to pass out challah to everybody? Everyone gets a little challah. Okay, Turkey, Shabbat Yadayim. Ta-da. Baruch Atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, cutie. Shabbat shalom. Enjoy Shabbat shalom. Want some challah, cutie? You want some challah? Big one? Big one? Who wants some big challah? Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. What's up? Look how big we're getting. Shabbat. Oh my goodness. Who'd like some challah? Like some challah? Some challah, cutie? Yes. Just, look at you guys. So.
Hi, Sophia. Shabbat shalom.
Hello.